welcome to Hale and Hearty Horses. Today's podcast, we're exploring the natural, energetic, and emotional healing of our equine companions, and we're going to do that through the power of essential oils. Do you want your horse to be strong, healthy, vibrant, and resilient? Do you want to proactively prevent illness and injury and have your horse recover with ease when challenges do arise? Welcome to Hale and Hearty Horses, your trusted hub for equine wellness and holistic care. Hi, I'm Dr. Rebecca, and I'm your host. In today's episode, we're diving into something kind of close to my heart, the use of essential oils on Acupoints for horses, a method that deeply inspired me by some groundbreaking work of Peter Holmes and Gabriel Mojay. And I've lovingly adopted that for our equines. I'm going to share a little bit of that with you today. So we've talked about in other podcasts how healing is not just physical. For centuries, both Western and Eastern medicine traditions have understood that healing occurs on multiple levels, on a physical level, on an emotional level, on an energetic level, and even on a spiritual level. In traditional Chinese medicine, the body is governed by an intelligent energy system, which we call qi. This qi flows through meridians, these energetic highways basically, and support every function of the human body and of the horse's body. When qi flows freely, we see vitality, we see calm, we see balance, we see health. When the qi is blocked, we can call it stuck or stagnant, and it can be excessive, and that's when we see disease in the form of tension, behavioral problems, emotional reactivity, and physical illness. And this is true for humans, and it is for horses as well. In horses particularly, they're very energetically attuned. They're very present in the moment. Their bodies respond very quickly to changes in the environment, and their systems often reflect the energy of everything that's going on around them, including us. I'm sure you've experienced where you come into the barn and maybe you're a little bit tense, maybe you're a little bit anxious, you had a hard day at work, and your horse picks up on that, right? So they're very, very sensitive to that. So when we work with the horses, we're actually wanting to converse with them on that energetic level. So in today's episode, we're going to discuss how to use essential oils in a way that you probably haven't heard of before. So most people think essential oils, they think aromatherapy, and this is completely different. We use them on Acupoints in alignment with the system of Chinese medicine. The wonderful thing about working with essential oils in this manner that I'm discussing today, it allows horse owners, practitioners, riders, and just about anyone passionate about holistic care for their horses to start working with Chinese medicine without having a license or having to have the know-how of using needles on acupuncture points, because instead we'll be using essential oils. So let's dive in. I want to start with where I learned the basics. So Peter Holmes is a medical herbalist and essential oil practitioner. He's best known for his pioneering work in combining essential oils with acupuncture points, herbal medicine, and in the traditional Chinese medicine system. His system is actually known as Aroma Acupoint therapy, where you use specific essential oils on specific acupuncture points to restore health. And it works with physical, mental, and emotional issues depending on the essential oil and the point combination that you use together. So in this work, essential oils are more than just a pleasant smell. They are concentrated plant intelligence, and they carry this vibrational and chemical blueprint of the plants that they come from. In Chinese medicine, we would equate this with Jing. It's the essentials of the plants. Jing is this vital force or essence of life And when we're using essential oils, we're actually tapping into that vital force of that plant. And just like other holistic medicines, this is not just about treating symptoms, but about addressing root imbalances, addressing the whole body. And Peter Holmes found that certain essential oils, when applied to specific acupuncture points, actually work like a remedy. And they send healing messages through the meridians into the body. Studying Peter's work is where I found inspiration for the use on horses. I've taken countless continuing education credits with both him and one of his proteges. Then I started working with this system with my own horses and then expanding it onto my clients' horses, and had to make some adjustments for safety, efficacy. But as I began using these essential oils, I saw firsthand how deeply they were affecting the horses, and I was really, really impressed with the results. So I continued to adapt Peter's teachings carefully and respectfully into a method I now call horses and healing oils. So why would I even think about using this on horses? It's because horses are incredibly receptive. Anybody who's done body work or Reiki or craniosacral therapy or any sort of trauma release knows how well horses respond to touch and to intention. And essential oils actually offer that multi-layer therapeutic effect. They act on the physical body through the biochemical properties and compounds of the plants. They affect the emotional body through the spirit of the oils, and they impact the energetic body when actually used on specific acupoints. What I found was that horses often respond even more profoundly than the work that I did on humans. So when we're combining these oils and the acupuncture points, I was seeing that the horses were actually responding better than my own body responded or any of my human patients responded. So in case you guys don't know, I'm a doctor of acupuncture and Chinese medicine. I've been working with horses for over 20 years, and I've been a licensed acupuncturist and working on humans for about 25 years. Everything that I've learned in the system of Chinese medicine, I have applied to both my human clients and my horse clients, and this whole idea of using essential oils on acupuncture points was no different. So what I found is that the horses are actually less blocked by mental resistance. So they're not sitting there thinking, oh, this isn't going to work. And so they're very receptive to any kind of work that you do with them. They're very present in the moment. So they're very in tune with your intentions and the fact that you're trying to bring them healing. And when you approach them with this calm, clear intention, they actually really trust you and respond, and you start to develop this really phenomenal relationship with them. And that's why I feel like this work is so powerful and is so healing, because of that deep connection that it brings between the practitioner and the horse. So how does it work? I'm going to walk you sort of like this 3-step process of how I go about working with essential oils on acupuncture points. So first of all, it requires choosing the right oil. So you've got to know your essential oils, and you've got to know the indications and why you would use them. And you have to know their energetic profile. So you're not just grabbing oil because it smells good. You actually want to know its constitutional actions, its emotional tones, and what the chemical compounds will do when they interact with the skin. Both Peter Holmes and Gabriel Mojay actually teach this about essential oils in a very phenomenal way. They talk about the chemical properties. They're kind of similar to herbal medicine. They can be categorized, and the essential oils are used via their actions and their indications, such as, are they harmonizing? Are they moving? Are they relaxing? Are they stabilizing? Are they grounding? Or are they centering? They also have a fragrance quality that affects their functions and their clinical use. In Peter and Gabriel's books, they go into depth about these aspects of each oil, and they also relate the oils to Chinese medicine, the 5-element theory, and all of the indications that go along with that. So let me read you a little bit about one of the most famous oils that people know, and that is lavender. So this is one of the books that was written by Peter Holmes. This is called Aromatica. He has volume 1 and 2. They're pretty in-depth books. And so when you look up lavender, you actually see that he talks a little bit about the sourcing of it and how they actually distill the lavender oil. He talks in depth in this book about how to make sure you're getting really good oils and that are of therapeutic quality. So we're not just going after aromatherapy. We actually want a more pure oil because we're using it therapeutically on the body. And so he goes into the therapeutic functions and the indications from sort of a Western perspective and talks about why you would use the oil. And it talks about its relaxing qualities, its cooling qualities, its restorative qualities, and its stimulating qualities. He talks about antimicrobial actions of the oils and just goes into synergetic combinations and even complementary combinations that you would use together. Tells you how to prepare the oils and all of that. Now, this is based on humans. So it is slightly different for horses, and we'll go into that in a little bit. But then he goes into the Chinese medicine functions and indications. When you read that, it becomes very clear it's in the Chinese medicine type language. So things like clears empty heat and calms the shen, right? That's some of the indications of lavender. And he goes in depth in how it activates the qi and it activates blood. It cools and ventilates the lungs. So very Chinese medicine descriptions. And where that becomes so important is then picking the acupoints that it goes with. So our very first thing is just to pick the oil. And you're going to pick the oil based on the horse's physical symptoms, based on their emotional state, based on their energetic imbalances, and based on their constitution. So Gabriel's book is called Aromatherapy for Healing the Spirit. It's more concise. It's not as lengthy, but I find that the descriptions are very helpful when you're trying to maybe decide between one or two oils, that you can really start to know what distinguishes one oil from the next. So if you're looking for a chi moving oil and you can't decide between two, I find that this book really helps you decide. So then once you pick your oil, then you're going to select your acupuncture points. So the point selection is to do with what are the indications and actions of that point. For example, an oil that actually moves energy can also be used on a point that moves stagnation, and it's a very powerful but gentle effect on the body for releasing pain. So a common thing we'd be using it on for horses. So this is where the traditional Chinese medicine pairs with the oil. So we have these traditional Chinese medicine sort of characteristics of the oil, and then we have the characteristics of the Chinese medicine acupuncture point, and we're putting them together for a really strong but gentle, powerful way to work on our horse's healing. So let's talk about a couple scenarios. Let's say you're working on a horse who can be quite anxious, can be very hypervigilant and hard to settle down. We might think about combining a point like pericardium 6, which soothes their spirit, opens the chest, calms anxiety, and pair it with a calming oil like lavender that we just talked about. Another option might say, no, this horse needs more grounding and centering, so we'll use kidney 1, a point that actually brings the energy down, and we'll combine that with an essential oil like vetiver. So one of the things that I have sitting here is this really nice handout that I got from one of Peter's classes, and I actually have it in this nice sleeve to keep it good. And I have a bunch of notes written on it, but he has this way of talking about, of course, top, middle, and base notes, which anybody in aromatherapy will be familiar with that terminology. But then he goes into the fragrance quality and divides them up into 6 fragrance qualities. And then he goes into the energetic movement that correlates with that fragrance quality. And then he goes into sort of the constituents of why that is, and he puts the fragrances into categories. And then from those categories, you get these essential functions and indications. And then from there, you actually get the essential oils. We're actually working backwards to the essential oil. We're not picking the essential oil and then coming up with what it would be good for. We're actually looking at what we need it to do, and then we're picking the essential oil. With that, then, there's a very clear way to combine that with Chinese medicine, because you're looking at same indications. You're looking at something that releases heat on a point that releases heat. So another example, which would be very commonplace, would be if you had a horse with muscular tension. So if we were looking at a horse with muscular tension and maybe a liver imbalance, so this is liver not from the Western medical perspective, but liver in the Chinese medicine's perspective. And so we would want to be releasing that stuck energy. So we could use a point like liver 3 and combine that with a qi moving oil like chamomile. Or we could look for a point that was really good for muscles and tendons to release them or to create healing in that system. We could look at gallbladder 34, which is a tendon and muscular point, and use that with marjoram, which is a very good qi moving that is actually good for muscles. So that's how that works. Once we actually pick the oil and pick the point, then we're going to apply that oil on that point. So we're actually going to take a drop of diluted oil and we're going to ground ourselves, center ourselves, and we're going to hold the essential oil on that point. We're going to always be staying below the resistance of the horse. So we always want to be working with the horse in a way that they're very accepting of what we're doing with them. That means that we're always working with the horse, not against the horse. We're watching for signs of acceptance and release. So you're holding the oil on the point for a bit of time. And then you want to stay present yourself so that you're respecting the horse's healing process and tuning into what they need in the moment. So this is very similar to how Peter has taught how to do this on humans, but I have made changes to it only based on safety. So what oils you would use, how they're diluted, where you would use, what points you would use, and all of that to stay within the safety of working with horses and essential oils. And also I have learned through trial and error, like some of the really key oils and points that go well together for various horse issues. I just want to say that your intention in this kind of work matters just as much as your technique. So the right oil on the right point can actually awaken the horse's own mechanism for healing. And it's without force, it's without pressure, and without resistance. But it also requires your intention of what you're bringing to the healing space. So when you're applying an oil to an acupoint, you're not actually fixing the horse. You're inviting the body back into a coherent state. So like we've talked about all along in these podcasts, we're really looking to facilitate the horse to heal themselves. And we're using some of the holistic techniques and remedies out there to facilitate that. One of the most fascinating layers of this work is actually with working with the horse's 5 element, or what you might call their archetype. So it's a framework that's rooted in Chinese medicine, and it's basically that every horse has an energetic constitution. It's not unlike a personality, but this constitution influences how they may express themselves, how they may deal with stress or trauma, the emotions that they'll go to on a regular basis, and also how they connect within themselves, with other horses, and also with humans. So some of the types are like, there's very driven, ambitious horses out there that are really good competitors, but they can become easily frustrated. And that would be like your wood type horse. Or you might have a very sensitive horse, a shy horse. It's very emotionally complex, and that would be more of your water type horse. Or you could have that really loyal, steady Eddie, hard-working horse, but they're a little prone to worry, and that would be your earth type horse. So they're just some samples so you have an understanding of what I'm talking about. So understanding these archetypes or these elements help us see the whole horse, not just their symptoms. And the nice thing with using this horses and healing oils, the combination of acupoints and essential oils, is that you can actually work with the horse in their constitutional type, just like you would if you were using acupuncture. So I find that this is a really nice way for people to learn to work with their horse along the Chinese medicine system, really start to delve into the complexities of the Chinese medicine system with their horse, but not having to have the decades of training to be able to practice on their horse with needles. This work allows us to stop labeling horses as maybe difficult, and instead we begin to see that maybe they're just energetically overwhelmed and they need grounding. Instead of calling horses lazy, we might start to notice that they're really just energetically depleted and they need tonification. All of this can be worked with the horses and healing oils. The oils and points that we choose are always guided by this deeper understanding of the horse's core constitution, their current imbalances, and not just on symptoms. And the conversation that we have with them through the points and the essential oils is going to be different for every horse. So this is a very individualized medicine. As horse lovers, we actually have a sacred role to be stewards for the horses, for their healing, and to be students of their wisdom. I have learned so much actually just through working with horses on this level that they have taught me to help me, and then I can take that forward to the next horse that I work on. So combining essential oils and acupuncture points is actually more than a technique. It's a conversation between two beings, facilitated by basically nature's medicine. And so this method isn't about protocols. It's more about working deeply with the individual horse. So when you combine the scent, the aromatherapy part, the touch, and the intention, you're really creating a relationship field between you and your horse. And the essential oil becomes sort of like a mediator. It becomes this neutral, compassionate guide that allows the horse to regulate themselves through the wisdom of nature. And the acupoints become sort of this gateway, this way not just into the body, but into the heart and the mind and the connection that the horses carry in such a pure, unfiltered way. In this space, actually, you'll find that horses begin to show us what they're ready to release, what they need work on, what they can receive, and what they can reclaim. I find that this work is really helpful with any horses that are having behavioral problems, emotional problems. I find that the combination of essential oils and acupuncture points is actually stronger than just the needle alone, especially in that category of the emotions and the spirit of the animal, especially if they've experienced any trauma or neglect. So this work can actually be pretty emotional for the horse. You can see a lot of releases from this work. If you're really open to it, you can start to feel it within yourself. And that's the beauty of it, because healing just isn't fixing, but it's actually remembering. It's remembering the wholeness of the body. It's remembering this holistic view of how our body works. So you might be wondering, why aren't I sharing more like specific oils and points here than the few examples that I give? And it's a great question, but here's why. So this work really requires quite a bit of learning, quite a bit of discernment to understand the safety, the efficacy, how to stay present in the treatment space, what oils to use to really understand your oils in a deep way, and also to really understand the acupuncture points in a deep way. So not all oils are safe for horses, and not all points are appropriate in any situation. So without the proper context and the right understanding, applying oils randomly can actually be pretty confusing. So instead of giving you formulas or recipes, I wanted to give you something more of a framework of understanding of how this works, so that if you do decide to go and learn horses and healing oils, that you understand the heart of the work that I teach first, and why I created it, and how it's a deeper guided path and a journey that you'll be going on. If you want to go deeper, if this resonates with you, if you're curious, intrigued, or inspired, I invite you to stay connected with this channel. Whether you're a horse owner who's wanting to build this deeper bond and work with your horse in this way, or you're a practitioner ready to expand your toolkit and start incorporating this into your body work, there's a space for you in this work. As I modernized the Horses and Healing Oils course, I actually taught it quite a few years ago, and I want to come back and revamp it and make it better. So as I do that, and I actually develop other opportunities for you to work with me and expand your relationship with your horse and learn some more healing techniques and ways to work with your horse for this holistic medicine approach, I will be making announcements about upcoming ways for you to engage further, and that will be here and on my social media platforms. So make sure you stay tuned. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the channel, leave a review, contact me, share it with your fellow horse lover, all of that, and help me spread the word as I build this platform out and I build my audience. So thank you for joining me today on Hale and Hearty Horses. I hope this episode inspires you to explore deeper into holistic medicine, to listen more closely to what your horse is trying to tell you, and to support your horse's healing journey with compassion and clarity. I'll see you next time.